Hi, I'm Andrew Wasson. Thanks for joining me for my weekly guitar blog. It's January 26, 2014, and this week we're going to do a lesson on the fundamentals of voice leading. And the question was sent in from George. He's in Chelmsford, Massachusetts, and he wrote in with this email: when I listen to songs, sometimes the chords flow very smoothly one to the next. It's like the bass notes are dropping through a scale one by one. But the chords still seem to be common types that I can figure out. Is there some kind of music theory idea to all this? I really like this type of sound when one chord moves to another with close bass notes. Can you explain this bass motion? From George in Chelmsford, Massachusetts, USA. Well, hey, thanks for writing in, George. You know, this idea that you're describing is what is known of as voice leading. And this involves how scale tones of the chords found in a progression are implied within the bass line. And this is most often done through what's called chord inversion process. And it's a really excellent sound that connects the low register notes in a very close-knit way. Basically, they can connect through either scale tones found within the harmony of the key signature, or you could do this with more advanced procedure by using some chromatic notes through secondary dominant chords, chord substitutions, that kind of thing. Overall, it's a very smooth idea to work with, and it's just a natural result of usually using chord inversions with the orderly linear use of scale tones in the bass. So let's head to the guitar neck and run through a few examples so I can help get you started on using voice leading. Well, one of the easiest ways to start out applying the process of voice leading is to work with a small group of scale tones just on one string, following a linear order. You know, normally I like to suggest working on either the 6th string or the 5th string when you first start this. And in example 1, I'll be working off of the 5th string here in the key of C major. I'll be moving along in descending order through the scale tones of F, down to an E, then down to a D, then down to the C. Now, once the scale tones have been established, it's pretty much time to just start experimenting with chord tones from the key signature. In the example here, we are in the key of C major, so you should realize the key signature for that and the harmony that's located in that key. In C major, we have obviously a C major chord off the root scale tone, and then when we move up to the 2nd degree, there's a D minor. The 3rd degree contains an E minor. The 4th degree is F major. The 5th degree is a G major chord. The 6th is an A minor. And then if you decide to use it, there's a diminished on the 7th step. It's a little bit dissonant, but you could probably make it work in a few certain situations. Now, in this example here, I'm going to start on the chord of F major in root position for that F, and then for the E tone, I went into a C major chord, but I put the E in the bass. So that's called a first inversion C major. So first inversion C major, so E is in the bass, and I wanted that drop down through the linear scale tones. Then I'm going to come upon the D. Now, like I just mentioned though, the D normally is a minor chord in the key center, but there was something else I was doing here. I was maintaining a C note on 3rd string. That's one of my goals here that I decided with this set of chords in the progression. So to maintain that note, I decided to go with a secondary dominant chord on the D to make it D dominant 7th. So remember, with secondary dominance, you can just switch the quality of any diatonic tone of the scale over to dominant 7th, and when you do that, you've created a secondary dominant situation. So that's what I did there. And then in wrapping up, I decided to go with a C power chord so I could have root 5th octave, and again maintain that C note up on the 3rd string. For performing it, I just used a basic cross-picking technique. Anyway, here's how it sounds. So you can hear when you put the voice leading in the bass, it really comes up with a nice sound, and the harmony is really tight. I really tightened it up a lot though, because I kept that C note on the 3rd string through every one of those chord changes. So there's lots of interesting things that you can do in initially applying this stuff. But you know, let's move on. Once those lower strings and linear movement have been studied for a short time, there's another really fun thing that you can do. It's going to be working between 4th and 2nd guitar strings. A lot of rock guitar players, I can in particular think of Eddie Van Halen's work and Jake E. Lee. He's the guy from Ozzy, songs like Bark at the Moon and all that. They've created a number of their signature style guitar riffs used primarily with just basic triads built off the fourth string. And a lot of them are going to be inversions, and some of them are going to be kind of unique. But in my example for this, I built a series of chords off that fourth guitar string using really only scale tones found between the 10th to the 5th frets there. So we're just going to be traveling down the neck. We're also going to be using Dorian mode, really popular rock mode. So the chords are just really root position, first inversion, and second inversion triads. And they're only using the notes from the harmony of the key signature. So what we're going to start off with is a C chord up here. And then we're going to do the A minor. Then we're going to move down to a D chord, and I should have mentioned there that A minor was in first inversion. The D chord that we're coming into is in second inversion, and then we're going to come up to a G chord, this time in first inversion. We're going to head back to that root position C, and then shoot down the neck with the G, D, and then we're going to go and do a C major chord in second inversion with G in the bass, and then we're just going to wrap up keeping the G in the bass and having a G major chord in root position at the end. So there's other things to think about here, because it's really important to understand that voice leading just doesn't have to do with notes moving around, and that it's also notes that actually will stand still a lot of times as well and just have the chord tones move under them. So keep all that stuff in mind when you're making these riffs. I'll just play this second example down here for you so you can get an idea how this thing comes together. Sounds like this. Now, for my last couple of exercises, I wanted to drop into the open position and do some work with a collection of open position chords. And this is a very common sound. You probably hear this a lot in different songs where you have, dropping bass lines and so forth. Almost any guitar player with even a minimal amount of playing experience can work on this kind of stuff right away. In the first of these open position examples, I'm going to be using the key of C major. I'll start on a C major chord, and then I'm going to drop down to a G major chord, first inversion with that B in the bass on 5th string. Then I'm going to head into an A minor, so I'm following the linear workout here through the scale tones next. A minor, I'm going to make it minor 7 though, and then I'm going to go to a root position G major. Then I'm going to have a D dominant 7th chord with F sharp in the bass, and just simplify that chord a little bit by making it into a triad, major triad, and then wrap things up on the old E minor there to tidy up that progression at the end. So here's how this progression works, this open position style progression. It goes like this. So you can tell, when you start opening up those strings and letting them ring out a lot, it's very open and warm sound as opposed to the work that we had done in the second example when we were up higher on the neck and things sounded a lot tighter, And then listen to this one. So you can tell when you hear the 4th through 2nd string riffs, the interior string set riffs compared to open string, there's a really big difference. And you can even use that in a song, maybe if you're moving between a verse and a bridge and a chorus, and you can decide what kinds of effect you want during the song, and then you can structure those accordingly. But moving on with this idea, the final set of chord changes that I'll be revamping through out of the open set will be very closely related to the first set of chord changes that I'd gone through in the open position. But instead of a rhythm guitar strumming idea, I'm going to do it more of a finger pick thing, so I'll just put my pick down quickly. So how it's going to all work out is we're going to start on a C major, finger picking through that, and then moving again to that G with B in the bass. But we're going to replace the A minor 7 that we had from before with a first inversion of an F major triad. It's a really cool chord voicing, really nice sound. Notice that from some of the 80s rock players, and that's occurring in measure 2. And then in measure 3, we're going to get rid of that dominant 7th that we had from before, and we're going to replace it with a modal interchange chord of D minor 6 with F in the bass. Really interesting sound, really kind of open, ringing sound to that chord. In the last measure, I added an E suspended 4th and an E major. So if you recall from our first open position progression, we wound up on an E minor, but this time we're going to head to an E major, and we're going to make it suspended to help it really have a strong repeat back to the top. Those suspended chords can be a really interesting way to sort of pull the progressions around. So once again, this is very closely related to the progression that we just played. So if you'll recall, we had the C to the G with B in the bass, A minor 7 to G, and then we had the D7 with the F sharp in the bass, and then E minor. Now this case, now we're going to add in a couple of new chords, and we're going to have it more of a finger-picked idea rather than just a straight rhythm guitar strumming idea. So here's how it sounds. This is my final example. With the application of voice leading, the strongest harmonic relationships occur when notes in one chord have a strong melodic tendency to resolve to the notes of another upcoming chord. In other words, what happens is a collection of melodic temperaments combine to form a harmonic temperament. So when we hear melodic motion that is connected not only within the structure of the chord, but also within the bass, what we wind up with is both very smooth and very melodic. And its use is, of course, very attractive in chord progressions. So be sure to try this out on your own, because I think you'll really start having a lot of fun applying it to your own songs and, of course, to your own rhythm guitar parts. Anyway, that's about all the time I have for today. As always, thanks for watching. Have yourself a great week, and I'll catch up with you next time. Bye for now.